Welcome to another explainer, everyone. Let's jump right into it. Today, we're unpacking a really mind-bending section of ancient text, Srimad Bhagavatam 5.25, the Glories of Lord Ananta. We're going to go through this text-wise, exploring the sheer scale, the immense power, and the breathtaking beauty of Lord Ananta exactly as Shukadeva Goswami described it to King Parikshit.
Here's the agenda for today's explainer. First, we'll look at the root of creation. Second, visualizing the divine form. Third, the path to purification. And finally, connecting the cosmic dots.
Section 1. The Root of Creation.
Right off the bat, Sukadeva Goswami grounds this massive cosmological explanation with a very precise location. He tells King Parikshit, "My dear king, approximately 240,000 miles beneath the planet Patalala lives another incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Ananta or Lord Sankarsana." So he's not just some abstract concept floating around. He resides at the very root of the planetary systems, acting as the ultimate physical foundation for everything above him.
But, his influence isn't just physical. Text 1 also explains that Lord Ananta is the predominating deity of the mode of ignorance and the false ego for all conditioned souls. The text gives a really clear definition of false ego here. It's that specific conception dictated by Sankarsana, where a mundane soul actually thinks, "I am the enjoyer, and this world is meant to be enjoyed by me." And because of this fundamental illusion, the conditioned soul essentially starts acting as if they were the Supreme Lord.
To really grasp the sheer scale we're dealing with, text 2 of the Bhagavatam offers a completely mind-blowing comparison. Just think about the entire universe for a second. Everything we know, every star, every single galaxy. All of it rests on just one of Lord Anantadeva's thousands of hoods. And compared to that massive hood, our entire universe appears as tiny and insignificant as a single white mustard seed. Literally, just a mustard seed.
Now, this epic scale builds from gentle maintenance straight into absolute destruction. Text 3 states that when the time for devastation finally arrives, Lord Ananta becomes just slightly angry. And from that slight anger, right between his two eyebrows, the three-eyed Rudra emerges, carrying a trident. This figure embodies the 11 Rudras, and they emerge for one sole purpose: devastating the entire creation. The power is absolute, yet it's triggered by just a tiny fraction of his emotion.
Section 2. Visualizing the divine form.
Okay, the imagery in text 4 is just incredibly vivid. It says, "The pink, transparent toenails on the Lord's lotus feet are exactly like valuable gems polished to a mirror finish." The text describes how pure devotees and the leaders of the snakes offer their obeisances with intense devotion, and as they bow down, they actually see their own beautiful faces and their glittering earrings reflected perfectly in his gem-like toenails. It's such a stunning, joyful visual of intimacy and reverence.
Texts 5 and 7 really help us construct this majestic image in our mind's eye, step by step. His arms are long, white, and beautifully decorated, looking almost like silver columns. He is dressed in bluish garments, wearing a single earring and a bright golden belt. In his two beautifully constructed hands, he holds a plow on his back, and around his neck rests a Vaijayanti garland made of ever-fresh tulsi blossoms, completely surrounded by bees that are intoxicated by its sweet, honey-like fragrance.
And despite the immense, universe-destroying power we talked about earlier, texts 6 and 7 heavily emphasize his deep compassion. For the ultimate welfare of all living entities, he completely restrains his anger. The text paints this beautiful picture of him looking upon his devotees, like the serpent princesses who lovingly smear his arms with sandalwood, with a truly merciful smile. His beautiful reddish eyes roll slightly from intoxication, delighted by love for his devotees, as they exchange sweet, bashful glances.
Section 3. The path to purification.
So, for those of us serious about liberation, text 8 provides an absolutely crucial point. It says, "If they always meditate upon Sankarsana, the Lord enters the cores of their hearts, vanquishes all the dirty contamination of the material modes of nature." This means that by focusing our minds on the very forms and scales we just covered, serious seekers can actively cleanse themselves of these deep-rooted material conceptions.
Text 8 systematically breaks down this whole process. Let's walk through this 4-step sequence of liberation. First, you have to hear these glories from a bona fide spiritual master in a chain of disciplic succession. Second, you continually meditate upon Lord Sankarsana. Third, as a direct result of that meditation, the Lord enters the core of your heart.
And finally, step 4, he cuts to pieces the hard knot within the heart, a knot that the text says has been tied tightly since time immemorial by our endless desire to dominate nature through fruitive activities.
To show just how active and highly revered this practice is, the text shares a really beautiful anecdote. It mentions that even up in the highest planetary systems, in Lord Brahma's very own assembly, the great sage Narada Muni continuously sings these blissful verses glorifying Anantadeva. He sings his own compositions accompanied by his stringed instrument, the tumburu. It just goes to show that this glorification is a continuous, deeply joyous practice happening at the absolute highest levels of the cosmos.
Section 4. Connecting the cosmic dots.
Let's summarize the key takeaways from texts 9, 10, and 13. First up, his power is so absolute that his mere glance enables the modes of material nature to act and create. Second, even though he is entirely self-sufficient, he effortlessly supports the entire universe from beneath the lower planetary systems. But third, and honestly most importantly, while he is unlimited and beginningless, he exhibits these diverse, transcendental forms purely out of causeless mercy. His primary motivation is simply to conquer the minds of his devotees and bring immense pleasure to their hearts.
Which leads to an incredibly powerful assurance found in text 11. The text explicitly states, even if he chants the Lord's name jokingly or by chance, he and anyone who hears him are freed from all sins. The source material really emphasizes the immediate, absolute purifying effect of chanting the holy name of Lord Shesha. It offers a totally accessible path to disentanglement, regardless of where you might be in your current spiritual state.
And this brings us to a very logical conclusion. Shukadeva Goswami poses these direct, rhetorical questions in text 11. Therefore, how can anyone seeking disentanglement from the material clutches avoid chanting his name? Of whom else should one take shelter? It's a pretty direct challenge, right? It prompts us to seriously reflect on exactly what or whom we are currently relying on for ultimate shelter and peace in this world.
Wrapping up his grand explanation to King Parikshit in texts 14 and 15, Shukadeva Goswami explains the fundamental why behind this entire physical universe we just explored. He states that the material creation is structured entirely to accommodate the fruitive activities and the varying desires of conditioned souls. Depending on our specific desires, we achieve different situations in bodies across these different planetary systems. Basically, the cosmos is a grand stage built for our desires, and it's maintained effortlessly by Lord Ananta.
Which brings us to our final thought for this explainer. We've just seen the scale. If the entire weight of our universe, every mountain, every ocean, every single complex problem we perceive, rests upon his hood as lightly as a single mustard seed, what heavy burdens are you carrying today that you could surrender to him? It's a really profound thought to take away from chapter 25. Thank you so much for joining me on this structured text-wise journey today. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I will see you in the next explainer.